Good morning. My name is Harvey Villanueva, and today I'm excited to introduce to you my amazing team. William Edwards, Jack Hyatt, Dylan Johnson, and Chance Story, whom you'll be talking to today. Together, we've spent the last several months building something we're really proud of, an app designed to tackle a surprisingly tricky classroom problem, calling on students fairly. Now, I want you to picture this. You're a professor. It's Monday morning, and half of your students are still waking up. You ask a question into the air, only to be met with a loud hush amongst the listless faces. Who do you call on? What do you do? Most professors, they just kind of pick someone willy-nilly. Maybe it's someone they recognize easily, maybe it's someone who talks a lot already. But even without realizing it, bias creeps in. And over time, some students feel left out, while others feel like they're under a microscope. No system, not really any fairness, just off the top of the head. We knew there had to be a better way. That's why we created Spotlight, an app that lets teachers randomly and fairly call on students, and so much more. With Spotlight, a teacher can cold call and rate their students' response, thus keeping a record of class engagement, manage multiple classes easily, and switch between the two of them easily, organize student seating in different layouts, whether it be in a grid or a bowl, to find the students easier, track the scores for each particular student across the semester, and view the overall class statistics to see trends over the time of the semester. In short, it gives professors an organized system to actually be fair, and it gives students a real shot at participation to build that engaging classroom. Right now, without our app, it's random shouting into the void. I'm personally taking a Spanish class right now, and it's literally just one guy who does all the speaking and answers all the questions while the rest sit in the back hesitating to answer. Dr. Stoughton, the law professor at USC who reached out to us to make this application, apparently he just maintains a paper spreadsheet of student responses that he updates by hand throughout the 3-month-long semester. Teachers try their best, but it's incredibly inefficient. No data, no insights, just good intentions, but unfortunately good intentions don't scale. We want to take that guessing game out of the classroom and replace it with something teachers can trust. Our main goals with Spotlight are to 1. Eliminate the unconscious bias when calling on students. 2. Make participation tracking easy instead of a headache. 3. To give quieter students an equal chance to be heard. And 4. To help professors have a full view of how participation looks over time. And really, in all honesty, to just make classrooms fairer and more fun for everyone. And now, for some extra comments on the technology side, we built Spotlight with Android Studio, using the Kotlin programming language and Gradle as our package manager. We use the Firebase real-time database for our backend database and for account authentication. And these two played beautifully together. Google supremacy. Firebase made syncing user data super smooth, and Kotlin gave us the flexibility that we needed to build a sleek and reliable app. So, that's Spotlight. We believe it's a step towards a fairer, more engaging classroom, and a way for professors to shine a light, pun intended, on every student, not just the loudest ones. And now, my dear friends will show off the demo and all of our hard work this past year.
This is Dylan Johnson speaking. Dr. Stevens is a history professor who would like to track his students' understanding of course material through in-class questions. To begin, he taps Sign Up. He enters his email address. He chooses a password. He confirms his password. He taps Remember Me and Sign Up. He then checks his inbox for a verification email and opens the link he received there. After verifying his email, he taps Create Class. His classroom has 6 rows and 6 columns of desks, so he selects the grid class layout. He enters in the dimensions, 6 rows and 6 columns. He enters in his class name, History 452. Dr. Stevens has exported a CSV of his class roster from Blackboard that looks like this. So he taps Import CSV and selects the file. The file did not contain a column for seat, so students are randomly assigned seating. He taps on each student initial and an empty desk in order to use up the front of the class. Dr. Stevens knows that Elizabeth goes by Lizzie, so he long presses on her initials to update her name. He also knows that Patty Smith was not included in the CSV because she's auditing the course, so he taps Add Student and enters in her first and last name and taps on a seat to assign her. He taps Save Student, and finally he's ready for class, so he taps Done.
My name is Jack Hyatt, and I'm showing more in-class usage of the app. So, Dr. Stevens has his history class, and he wants to ask them questions popcorn style to make sure they know their material. So, he spots the class. Magdala was spotted and asks her question, gives it 4 stars, and submits it. But he only had the one question at the time, so he cancels out of the next spotting. Later on in the class, he has 2 questions, so he spots once, and Nash is spotted. He doesn't like Nash's answer as much, so he marks it 2 stars and unprepared. How sad. And he submits it. Next, Harris is spotted, but Harris isn't there today, so he hits absent and submits the spotting. He wants to make sure Harris was still noted to be spotted. So, now to ask the second question, Atreus is spotted, and he loves Atreus' spotting, or answer. How nice. So he submits, and while doing that, he thought of a third question. So, this spotting is still valid. He asks Elizabeth the third question, but wait, she's not in class. Where is she? She's in the bathroom, but he knows she knows her stuff, so he's not going to wait for her. He's just going to skip her along. And he's done for spotting now, actually, so he exits out. Now, Dr. Stevens wants to look through the settings. He realizes there's a spotting animation setting, and he turns it off because he actually thought it was a little slow. He sees spot skipped setting, but he doesn't know what it does, so he clicks the question mark, and he reads and thinks he does want to actually keep the setting on. What if the student comes back from the bathroom? And he likes an unprepared option as well. He sees, export roster button, but he has no use for it currently, so he doesn't press it, and he definitely doesn't want to delete his class, nor does he want to delete his account. If he did, luckily, there's still some fail-safes to make sure he doesn't accidentally press it. If he presses it, he'll just have to type in the class name making sure this is what you want to do. And there's also a log out button here, but he wants to stay logged in. So he goes back. Now it is a couple hours later, and he has to teach another history class. So he clicks the hamburger bar, and he goes over to his History 230 class. Now he can spot them for class whenever he wants to. Now it's the next day, and he wants to go back to his previous class. So he goes over here, back to his class. But before class starts, he wants to look at their statistics. So he presses the button down below, and he can look at their statistics. He sees the class has an average rating of 3.42 and thinks, that's a fine rating. He scrolls through, and he can see the students in the class who are performing the best and the students who are not. And he can focus on these students a little more with the material in class if he would so choose to. Now he's ready to tackle the day.
Hello, my name is William Edwards, and today I'll be showing you how a professor or instructor can view class-specific and student-specific information in our app. To bring up the class roster, a professor simply has to select the people icon in the bottom left of our home screen. This brings up a list of all their students. Let's say our professor, Dr. Stevens, is interested in seeing a specific student's ratings because he just discussed something with her in office hours. He can find the student through multiple avenues. First, he can either scroll through the list looking for their name, or he can sort the list by alphabetical or class rank. And finally, he can simply search her name. Let's say the student he's interested in is named Joanna. By searching her name, the list auto-filters and brings her up. Then, by selecting her, he can view her profile. This profile contains her seat number and a visualization of where she sits in the class, along with her graduation year, class rank, and various rating statistics about the ratings she's received through the class semester. To view all of these ratings, Dr. Stevens then can select View All Spots. because he's only interested in her performance when she actually answers a question, Dr. Stevens can filter this list for skips and absences. And we can see this removes all the skips and absences, leaving us with only the numbers for Dr. Stevens to view. However, let's bring these back, because Dr. Stevens remembers that he accidentally marked Joanna absent on April 27th. Thus, he can undo this mistake by simply swiping to delete. If he didn't want to do this, he can select undo down here. However, he did. Going back to her page, she remembers that she mentioned something else in office hours. She actually likes to be called Jo, not Joanna. Thus, he can simply update her information by selecting the pencil icon in the top right and changing her name along with any other information he sees necessary. He then goes back to the roster page and remembers one more thing. A student called Ty Darty left his class a couple weeks ago, and he hasn't yet removed him from the app. Thus, like in the spottings, he can simply swipe to delete and remove Ty from the list. And again, he can undo this if necessary. However, he meant to do this, so he leaves Ty deleted. And now I can see the class has updated, with Ty being removed from the grid.
Hello, my name is Chance, and I'll be demonstrating the edit class functionality. Let's say that a couple days into the semester, a new student, Bob Smith, joins Dr. Stevens' class. To add this new student, navigate to the edit class screen by tapping the edit icon in the bottom right. And from here, Dr. Stevens can select add student, which will bring up a screen to enter the student info. We said was Bob Smith. And you select the seat by tapping in the grid and the year in the dropdown. And save. Then we can verify that Bob has been added by searching Bob's name in the roster. And from the roster, we can also edit Bob's information if necessary. Say Bob's actual name is Bobby instead. Now, what if Bob decides to move closer to the front? To reflect this change in the seating arrangement, Dr. Stevens can go to the layout view, and then he can move Bob by tapping Bob's seat and then tapping an empty seat in the grid. And this can also be used to swap to occupied seats if Bobby and Ahmed want to switch seats. Now let's say that Dr. Stevens' class has to move classrooms for a few days, and the new classroom is a lecture hall type layout instead. To reflect this change in the app, he can tap the Edit Class Layout button, and a new screen will be brought up to input the new class layout, same as when he creates a class. Say it's a bowl layout with dimensions like so, and he selects Confirm, and that'll complete the layout. You can go back to the layout view and see the changes have been implemented. When changing class layouts, students may be reassigned seats to ensure that they fit into the new layout. If Dr. Stevens is unhappy with the way they've been moved, he can rearrange them by tapping and swapping again. Alternatively, you can also select the Shuffle button, and the student seats will be randomly rearranged. After a short animation plays, every student will have a new seat. When Dr. Stevens is happy with his edits, he can select Done to return to the home screen. And when he's finished using the app, he can navigate to the top right settings menu and then select the logout icon in the top right. And this concludes the demo for the Spotlight app. Thank you for watching.